Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off Axis podcast. I'm here with Austin Bradley. Austin's a very, very talented cinematographer, acrobat, and definitely produces some of the highest quality acrobatic videos on the internet. I'm a big fan of the work. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, and I'm glad you're having me on here.
Yeah, dude. So what is your actual background? Like, what did you do as a kid?
Ooh, as a kid, I mean, pretty standard stuff. As a kid, I ran a lot of track and field, and then high school, senior years when I very first started getting into acrobatics, which was parkour, and I was doing that with my friends Isaiah and Jacob. And then that's because I would film a lot of the videos we made back then.
Okay.
So it was...
Do you have like a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so the early YouTube channel, you can find all of our pretty funny videos of how we started and stuff is on Urban Aces LV.
Oh, for sure.
And then that's a lot of the early work, I guess, of the videography and stuff. Because initially we would all shoot, we would all edit, and then it sort of just over time funneled to I would do the edits, and then I don't know. It kept going as a side thing that was always like over my shoulder while being an acrobat.
Yeah.
And then all that kind of stopped when I went to the military. So
Definitely. Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I started a YouTube channel was like 14 or 15 or so when it first came out, and like got one of these cameras that had like a CD player that you could record on the side with.
yeah.
It was like super old school, and then you had to like you had to like render all that footage, and then you had to put in the like I forget what editor it was called back then, but
Man, I was on Windows Movie Maker.
Windows Movie Maker,
finally,
that's what it was.
You know, everybody was torrenting Sony Vegas.
Yeah,
And
dude, the good old days before
right.
Final Cut and Premiere really came out. I guess
Yeah.
Premiere's probably a pretty old program.
Yeah, Premiere is pretty old. Premiere CS anyway. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to the military. What did you do in the military?
Fuels. And so I was POL fuels in the Air Force
Oh, wow.
for a little bit because, you know, at least in the early stages of parkour, I graduated high school and we were still doing the little videos, but I was like, well, there's no money in this, and
Yeah.
went off to the Air Force. And then as soon as I left, friends got shows and other stuff, and I was like, oh, man, you know, my friends were getting way better, progressing way faster
Yeah.
in the parkour scene. And so I would try to train overseas, but my motivation just wasn't there. And then when I got out, I started training much harder once I got out. And
Yeah,
then,
for sure.
And then I finally landed my first show. So
How long were you doing the military for?
it was 3 years and some change.
Okay.
Yeah.
What age did you start?
Right at 18.
18?
Right at 18.
Okay.
And it was like not straight out of high school, like I stayed and trained and stuff, but I definitely started the process
Yeah.
not too soon after getting out of high school and graduating. So it was like, yeah, I'll go take my ASVAB, and then, you know, started doing the MEPS, and then the basic training was pushed back a little bit, but went off and did that crush basic training. That's Air Force basic training, at least on the physical side, is pretty easy.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Well, thank you for your service. Where are you originally from?
I mean, I lived most of my life in Vegas, but I was born in South Carolina.
Oh, dope.
And I don't carry too much of the Southern accent like my family has. Like,
Yeah, I would have never noticed.
Yeah, if I go back and visit, sometimes it's a little hard to understand. It's almost like a whole nother language to me at some time. You know, at some points when I'm listening, go ahead and get that logo to the book. I'm like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, the accents over there are crazy. It's crazy that the United States has so many different like areas with different accents. It's almost like it should be totally different countries.
Yeah, and even just within the South, like, just even the Southern accents vary from where you are, you know? Like,
Different cities and stuff. Like,
yeah, like a lot of my family back in Lynchburg, South Carolina, will have a very different Southern accent from like someone from Alabama, you know what I'm saying? Like,
totally.
It's just different types of Southern accents that you got to be adjusted to.
Yeah.
But
so when you came back, did you get hired for a show right away?
Definitely wasn't right away. So I got out, And
You went back to South Carolina, or you came to Vegas?
Vegas. And, you know, it was because it was like, it's where everybody trains. It's where all my friends were. So definitely came back to Vegas and started training, doing some tricking, and I guess just trying to get my skills ready for whatever would come across. And then, like, luckily my friend Ian got Lumberjacks, and then I guess the parent show to that was Pirate's Voyage, which is where he gave me a recommendation, and then they called me. And then that was actually like the start of my circus career, was from that job, because that job taught me so much. Like, that's where I learned Russian swing. That's where I learned Chinese poles. That's where I learned I got better at diving, because I did diving in senior year of high school, but I was trash. And then, but yeah, they got better at diving, got better at tumbling, and then that show is what was able to springboard me to get other gigs, and then eventually go and meet Cirque Mechanics, which was another huge part of development for me and traveling with them, and I still am super thankful for going to Pirate's Voyage, just for that learning experience. Yeah,
I feel like Pirates and SeaWorld, they're like boot camp for acrobatics. Like, everyone should start with like those kind of shows, because I'm sure there's a lot of work involved, and like it's really good for building like your work ethic and that kind of stuff. There's really good basic shows that you can learn a lot of different things on too.
And it's good for getting comfortable in front of an audience, because you can be uncomfortable with that, and it can affect your air awareness and performance if you're not used to just like toning them out when you need to do what you need to do. So it would definitely suck for someone not to have that experience and then go onto the Cirque stage and you freeze up or something, you know. So I'm thankful for Pirates. They were very lenient with me, and they were super helpful. Very talented people that would coach me, especially on Russian swing, because that thing's you know, it's a 0 to 100 thing. You either do it right or you're severely injured. And then springboard dive and cleaning up the technique, and tumbling, because the floors would be wet. So if your tumbling is not somewhat decent, you're gonna fall, you know. And then Chinese poles, it's a whole thing on its own. I still hate it to this day, but.
Dude. I don't really know too many people that just love Chinese pole, because every time I'm on that, I'm like, oh, this hurts. Like, this isn't fun. I feel like I'm working out with like extra pain.
Like, I'm saying, and you do it in shorts. Ooh, God help you, you know. And then unless I'm getting paid.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When I see the Chinese pole, I'm like, nope, not going up that thing today.
Yeah, no. But
would you do that show again?
I mean, I loved the show itself. I would do the show again. I have no problems doing the show again, but it being, for one, like the water show, and there was a few issues with the way it was ran that more so created problems, never the actual show. I'd actually love to do that show again. But it sometimes, like during the summer, for instance, you end up doing 4 shows a day, and then when that dies down, it goes back to 1 shows. And so what ends up happening is like they keep the cast at a certain number of people, and when the demand gets really high for shows, obviously your acrobats are going to get injured, because doing 4 shows a day, hour-and-a-half shows, day in, day out, as soon as someone gets injured, you lose your days off. And so, and it maybe not even an injury, you know, someone is just irresponsible and, you know, just doesn't show up or forgets the schedule or something like that. It's something that will cause you to lose your day. So now you can't rest, and it's just tearing up your body. And so,
for sure.
Like, after doing 3 summers, it's like I could feel my body getting torn up just from those summers alone. You know, you get plenty of rest around that, but the summers would just tear me up. And then the water itself, it can get pretty nasty if you're not on top of it, right? Because
for sure, I know what you're talking about.
Like if you're wearing shoes and going in the water, Or if somebody has athlete's foot and you're not like constantly monitoring your feet and taking care of it, like you can get athlete's foot, it can start eating the skin in between the toes, and like the skin starts to
and
rot.
then everyone gets it too.
And then everyone gets it, and then it just gets ugly real quick fast, you know. And then
I bet you these times now with everyone like spraying stuff everywhere and keeping everything super clean would be a lot better.
It'd be a lot better, but there are a few other things, like you're swimming in, it's
not the cleanest water.
It's not the cleanest water.
I did a diving show last summer, and I got an ear infection the first day.
Yeah,
and then the next day they're like, hey, actually the water's too dirty to go in. I'm like, oh, welcome to the show.
It's ear infections were definitely a big part of it, especially during high season, because you had certain people that couldn't get in the water, so now you're covering more.
Yep.
You're doing more on the tramp wall. You're doing other acts on the tramp wall to fill in. You're doing more flies on the swing.
Yeah.
But on top of that, now you're tired, and if you get complacent with it, you're the next in line to get injured if you're not careful. So.
Yeah, and the diving shows are a lot of stress on your body. Like, I would love to do a diving show, but only like 4 days a week, because when you're doing it every day, like, you're doing so many damn dives into the water. Like, you hit the water and you're like, relax. All right, fuck, swim back to shore as fast as you can and do it again.
Like, I don't, like, from once I got used to the show, it was pretty constant, and I didn't really mind it so much. Like, I had to do a lot of acts, but part of me had so much fun doing the show. I never really minded it. And granted, they like I said, they were pretty lenient with me because I was wild on stage. Like, I would totally be acting out, dancing when I shouldn't be dancing, and, like, up on the perch like Millie Rock, and like doing all kind of mess. And like they were pretty tolerant with me in that regard. So like I'll give them that, you know.
Well, you gotta have fun.
You got to, especially if you're
not having fun.
Like if you're on your third, fourth show and like you're still trying to do the same. You start going crazy.
It gets really long if everyone's not having fun and like playing little games and doing that kind of stuff. Otherwise, it just gets boring, and then everyone's like on each other's backs and stuff.
Oh yeah, the drama can get real.
Oh man, if you have a cast full of complainers too, and everyone's complaining after every show.
Holy smokes!
That was
like you worked there or something, man.
yeah, for sure. That was the good thing for me about doing extreme sports. Everyone was like, just don't be a pussy and just go. Don't complain.
Yeah, and now that I'm more, I guess, in the circus community for the most part, and I've seen some other shows, and I've done a few other gigs, it's like, it's not, because that being my first show, when people complain, it can really mess with your image of how you see the show, you know, especially if you're new into it. And so you'll look at this as like, oh, this is shit, I can go get better and stuff like that. But it's, at least for me, it was still a job. You know, I was coming out of the Air Force, and then suddenly I'm getting paid to do flips.
Oh, I bet you that's a relief.
I did not care too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it was 4 shows a day and stuff like that, it was very hard to get upset, because it's like,
for sure, it's
like you get to mess around for basically an hour and a half, or at least the time the show is going on. And then in between that, it's like I'm just resting, you know, I'm on my phone, or I'm maybe editing something. And it's so much more lax.
Definitely.
In terms of what's required of you. And so I never had complaints, but then it was like people would, you know, oh, they're doing this, and they're doing this with my pay, or why I gotta do all this. And I'm like, oh man, they just treat everybody badly here. But it's like, no, sometimes you have to look at what that person did, and it can really mess with you if you're not aware.
It'll bring you down. And like, what better work ethic to build than in the Air Force? Like, I felt I did construction growing up, so with the fact that I got to do shows, I was like, oh, this is way better. I'm never gonna complain about this.
And like, even the Air Force had fun times. Like, now, granted, when I first went in and got to Guam, we were 12-hour shifts. It was, you know, only day shift, night shift, and typically day shift would be a lot busier, but night shift could be busy as well, just depending on what came through the flight line. But there were definitely periods of time where I was working night shift, and the flight line was dead. And we got so good at Call of Duty Zombies.
I bet.
Oh, man.
So you've been doing a lot of video stuff lately?
Yeah. So not soon as, but quarantine hit, and it was like, oh, this is just a good time to relax my body. You know, I just came off a tour with doing the 42-foot tour, and I was feeling a little achy. Then this whole thing hit. We had just got a house. I was like, and this works out. I can just rest my body. And then after like 2 weeks, maybe less than that, I realized how much I was wasting an opportunity to get good. And so that's what I've like. I really like buckled down to try and optimize this time to learn as much as I can. And I've set some pretty crazy goals that I don't expect to meet right away, but it gives me something to work towards to keep me motivated. Because when I would try to do this kind of stuff while working at Pirates or something, I would just be so drained that I would instantly default to playing video games or going out and drinking and stuff. But now it's like I can wake up and do my little morning routine or whatever, and then I can just get right to cranking out an edit, and I can spend like all day on it if I want. And it's been super beneficial in learning Blender. So I'm learning Blender to do like 3D world building. That's really the only reason I'm learning it. And then I can incorporate that with green screen stuff. And then After Effects has been super, super amazing to learn during this time. There's so much you can do with that. Same with Blender, but Blender's fucking hard. And then After Effects is easy by comparison now. So I'm like speeding through After Effects. And then Premiere Pro is like super low tier. You know, it's nothing, just even messing, but using the two intertwined, like the dynamic link where you can edit one clip in After Effects and it affects the other. Yep. It's easy to do now just because I've spent the time I've dedicated to it. And now I want to take it and start making, how do I explain this? So Ian Hubert is one of like the best, I guess, Blender users, and he can create entire scenes, like movie quality level scenes in Blender alone. And he can use just a green screen and build a world around a person just walking in the room. And he's a one-man team. I totally thought, at least as far as I've seen, he's a one-man team when it comes to the filming and the editing. And I used to want to do stuff like that, but I thought you need a crew, you need someone else who's good on the 3D or a team of 3D to pull something like that off. Granted, I'm sure it took him a long time to do what he does, but the fact is he is one person that did it. And so that's where I want to get to, is to be able to build entire scenes and worlds. But now, since I'm involved in the circus community, I can do that and put acts in those worlds. I can put tricking in those worlds. I can put I can put acrobatics in there, you know, and then that's just a next level of quality that I just honestly it's cool. Like, yeah, dude. Like, it'd be cool to show people. It'd be cool the ideas you can pull off with like an aerialist and maybe some steampunk built city that we put fans under to simulate when the steam is coming through a pipe or something like that, and she starts a drop or something. So, something crazy, you know. And there's just so many ideas that could be used, and it also helps to learn this stuff because on the flip side of when my body is all beaten up, I can go full time. Yeah, true. With the whole video and learning and Blender and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been planning for in quarantine, is to get to that level. Yeah, for sure. And that's like futuristic stuff too, so it's not going away anytime soon either. Yeah. Like, it's good to be on top of that technology trend. It is. Because I don't know anyone else who does that shit, so you're hired, dude. If I need someone, like, I only know one guy. Yeah, man, for sure. Speaking of technology trends, just real quick, you see that Disney got their own deep fakes going their own like super. So typically like deep fakes are like at a certain resolution that you can do, but
I haven't seen this.
But Disney got their own deep fakes that they can. It's basically just a high quality deep fake because it's done at a studio level rather than some one-off guy doing it and running the facial data and getting all the mapping right. Instead, you got a whole basic supercomputer that's computing this now.
I see this.
I'm like,
I
that's
think
a little creepy.
wasn't like the new Star Wars movie filming this, Mandalorian?
Yeah, I think it was
all
used
deep fakes or
recently,
something?
but it's scary to think about. You know, it's like,
Yeah, dude.
yeah, we still have your favorite actor acting even after he's dead.
I know that shit's crazy. Ooh, yeah, that stuff's crazy. There's like, they could just. I mean, no one's gonna want to live in regular world anymore,
Dude, and
especially when everything's like.
It's a little scary because, you know, once you can't trust if the video footage is real, that has a lot of implications on what you can or can't trust later on.
That's very
Especially
true.
when it comes to any kind of evidence or any kind of.
Oh yeah, they can fake anything now.
Oh yeah, so it's a little scary, you know. It's like, ooh, Disney's doing it. Who else is doing it? You know.
I know, right? Yeah, and
But-
now that they're doing it, it's gonna spread down, and it's gonna get cheaper and cheaper to do it, and everyone's gonna be.
Well,
It's gonna be accessible.
The deep fake is already free. It's just how much time are you willing to put into it? How much of the faces of the person you're trying to deep fake are you willing to go and grab the video footage and have it map it out? You know, if you got the time for it.
Yeah.
But some people already have the time, but at least it's somewhat low res. Disney doing it at like a movie quality.
Yeah, it's gonna be the best of the best.
that's a tad different than your average Joe just deep faking, you know.
Yeah, dude.
That's hard to detect when you have the best of the best doing a deep fake. So
Yeah. Have you gotten into like this 3D stuff? Like, do you do like have like a 3D game system or any of that?
No, I've really only been using Blender. I've messed with Unreal Engine before, if you're familiar with that. So Unreal Engine it's a engine,
Yeah.
but it's a game engine that you can basically do game design in, and it was like my first introduction into 3D, which was messing around with that. You could mess around placing different materials, and you could see how certain things would interact within the 3D world.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool, but I didn't really think much of it then because I was like years ago, and I really had no plans to kind of implement that. And I wasn't into game design. It
Yeah.
wasn't what I was looking for video wise. And then I started messing with Cinema 4D, and even on the Urban Aces channel, you can look at the early work of Cinema 4D there with the titles. I used it a lot for titles, and I would like look up these YouTube Cinema 4D templates and see how they would do the titles, and I'd bring in the project file and mess around.
What do I look up?
You can look up HKPK Sage Session or something like that, or
Should I type in your name too?
maybe Urban Aces in there, and it should pop up. Let me see the screen. Maybe.
Here, I'll pull it up over here.
Oh shit! Yep, it's definitely that first one.
All right, let's see this.
At least
Cut out music.
So that's the early Cinema
Yeah.
4D. Yeah.
Oh damn, you did that?
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy,
that's the early Cinema 4D
dude.
usage. And then
Was that done in After Effects?
no, so Cinema 4D is
Okay, so that's the whole
software
system?
suite. Yeah. And then you can export that and then bring that into After Effects if you wanted to like doll
Is it
up
all
within it.
Adobe?
Cinema 4D is not.
Okay.
So After Effects, Premiere Pro are the two things I use in Adobe, or Photoshop and Lightroom, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
And then Blender and used to be Cinema 4D are the 3D suites that I
Oh,
use.
dope.
So
Yeah, I never got into that kind of stuff. Too complicated. I tried to learn After Effects, and I spent like the free trial, which is like 7 days on it, and then I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna stick to like quick edits and stuff.
well, how I originally started learning After Effects, because it was mainly through a lot of these titles. So if you like look through the videos, every title is something different. It's something stupid, something different. And it's just because, like, I would look up a tutorial and it's like, I'm going to try that. And then I would just do the title and then I would stop.
Yeah.
But that helped me learn to navigate the programs. And over time, I guess you just kind of learn it. You remember what your keybinds are for certain things. And you really start to get smooth at the program. And I also try to not just, like, learn it outright, like with Blender. I don't want to just learn Blender. It's like, yeah, you got to make this donut and go through learning the particle system and put the sprinkles on the donut. It's like, fuck that. Yeah. I want to get straight to the world building. So it's like,
dude,
let me look up something that I can use in a project now, and I'll just do it shitty, but I'll learn how to do it and learn the basics. And that's kind of what I want to start doing right now. I don't know if you saw, like, one of the things I want to do is this AICP based video for, like, they did a music video and it was a lot of motion capture that they used the motion capture data, put it to these meshes, and then the meshes themselves would either have like hair simulations or like particle simulations or something like that.
Yeah.
And I want to do that, but with circus acts. But
that'd be crazy.
Right. And doing that, for one, getting the mocap right for that is just, it's a challenge. I've been messing around with mocap. It's pretty easy to do basic stuff, and even like I got the mocap down. I got the mesh bonded to the BVH file, which is the motion capture data file, and then I was able to put like a hair simulation on it. It took forever to render, but it was pretty straightforward. I got it done. And to do something where you're mocapping somebody tricking, where it's like a touchdown rise cork happens, that is a extremely complicated move to try and do motion capture. That'd at least with just the Xbox Connect that I have, and we've even thought about using two of them to try and increase the depth map. So maybe it's a little more accurate if we can get more points of information, but it's a toughie. And then on top of that, just the render times for that is atrociously long to try and do in your own system. You can,
for sure. That sounds like a headache to me.
Yeah. But I do want to do it. I'm slowly working towards it. Like, I tell myself I have to look up just one Blender tutorial a week.
Yeah, like that's a good one to do,
right, that's I know I can do that because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll get good enough. It may take longer, but eventually. And sometimes, you do a little more. So it's like, I typically never will just look at one tutorial. I'll go through like 4 or 5 little 15-minute tutorials, and then it's like an hour dedicated to my time that I've learned this much, and I'd rather do that than the games I'm constantly binging on or
for
smoking.
Sure. Yeah, the more you you learn, like the more stuff you have to pull from in the future. Exactly. Especially when you're able to use all these different programs.
Oh man.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to use Final Cut?
No, because I'm just not a Mac guy.
Oh, you don't have Mac at all?
No.
Well, you wouldn't be a Final Cut guy then.
Exactly. But I'm not opposed to it, because the thing with Mac is, at least when it comes to Mac in the Final Cut Pro software, is that it's so well optimized in how it goes about, I guess, encoding its data.
Yeah.
When you bring a file in, it's always, for the most part, pretty smooth playback in comparison to what you would get using Premiere Pro on the same system. You get a lot more out of a lot less specs using Final Cut than you would Premiere Pro, because like I have to have my computer like rigged out like a monster to just even mess around and do stuff. Like, for instance, if I'm in Blender and you turn the render engine to cycles, that thing will tear up any computer that's not ready for it. Yeah. And so I just have to have top of the line specs for that, because I'm outside of Final Cut Pro. And so, that's kind of just what I have to do. But if I was only video editing and I had a Mac, you could totally be okay with just Final Cut Pro. Like, I know it pretty well. I just haven't used it. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe on a laptop or something.
Yeah. I don't know if I make short, quick fast edits in a lot of them because that's what I like to do, and then I use Final Cut, or if I make short, quick, fast edits because I have Final Cut. Because I used to get way more into like the details and stuff when I had Premiere Pro, but then the moment I switched to Final Cut, I was just like, oh, I can make videos so much faster.
I mean, it
it's
depends
like half
on your
the
goals.
time.
Yeah, it depends on your goals. Like for you, you're constantly cranking out a lot of content.
Yeah.
To between this podcast and between what you do for your off-axis channel as well, and you're only one guy.
I don't know what I would do with Premiere Pro. That'd just be too much editing.
I mean, like if I didn't want to crank out a quick edit, I know it enough now to do so. You can with Premiere Pro, but for me, the one that used to be for cranking out the quick edits and what I edit a lot of my old stuff on was Sony Vegas, because specifically the playhead where you would play a video on the timeline to start from would stay right where it was, and then it would play ahead from where you stopped that playhead.
Yep.
Play on words there. But Premiere Pro doesn't do that, and it pisses me off. And it took forever to make the transition to Premiere Pro, and then now the new software to go to is Davinci Resolve. And Davinci Resolve is the Hollywood level color grading suite, but now I'm just rooted in my Premiere Pro hotkeys.
Yeah,
and I don't
for
want
sure.
to change, the workflow. And I'm like,
learning a whole new program again. Yeah, I recently had to re-upload or re-download Adobe Premiere for a place that I work for, and I was just like, I still remembered all the hotkeys, but I was like, oh god, this is too much.
Right.
I don't know where everything is.
Exactly. I don't know where my effects are. I don't know, like, because I'm used to doing the color wheels, and color wheels I can do in DaVinci, but DaVinci goes like ridiculously in depth, and then for me, I can layer on effects onto a clip, and then I go to my effects tab and it shows what I layered. In DaVinci, you have to use something called nodes, and it's the same thing in Blender. You have to use nodes. I fucking hate using nodes. I don't know how the nodes work, because it's like I put a node and then I put another node, but I can plug in only a certain attribute of this node into a certain attribute of that node, and they will only affect those two things instead of like layering all the effects. It gives you more control, but it just complicates things more. I feel like maybe I just need to sit down and just spend like a week fucking with only nodes and let y'all see the results of that.
That's that's the problem with camera making. You're just like, all right, I just have to have computer time, and like the more you film, the more you sit in front of a computer.
Dude, oh my gosh. And if you're not getting up and like stretching, like thank goodness I do acrobatics as well. So,
for sure.
It like somewhat evenly rounds me out on the exercise front, and then I can go and sit down and be like, okay, I got it. But like if you're just constantly like, all right, I just need to sit down for like 10 hours and crank these 2 edits out, that is just rough, sitting down for that long. Granted, I used to do that all the time when I was in a serious World of Warcraft addiction phase. Like I could go forever just playing WoW and sitting there. But when you're sitting there editing,
it's like doing homework.
And especially if you don't know how this edit is supposed to be, I don't know, the cognitive, like how much brain power you're sitting there spending, like
dude,
just trying to figure out where an edit is. It tires you out. Like it tires you out. It
definitely does.
And it's like, oh well, there's this deadline for this client, and I can't just stop. And so it's like, start getting tired, let me chug a Bang or a Monster.
It's like coffee and weed. You need a bunch of it.
Not even the weed. Like if I smoke and try to edit, I can't even mix the two.
If you smoke and edit, you'll spend like an hour on one clip, just making it the ultimate clip.
Dude, at least for me, I'd knock out super easy. So as soon as I come across any resistance in this editing process where I don't know what comes next, I start dozing, and then lean back and fall asleep for an hour and wake up, and my neck's all kinked, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta get this edit done still.
I'll always catch myself, and I'll be like 2 inches from the computer screen. I'm like, oh, what am I doing to my eyes? I gotta back up. Like if you're like trying to like time clips to like the music or something.
Right, and a lot of it's funny. Like most people, or I think most people don't know the longest part I spend on an edit is definitely finding the song. That's one of the longest parts I can spend on an edit is just like searching through music bed, searching through copyright free music on YouTube, or maybe a good song instrumental that I think won't get copyright struck.
That's
like,
the worst part about editing, I think.
Dude, and it's
finding the music
like
that won't get copyrighted.
Like
I just made that cinematic slow motion video the other day, and instantly, as soon as I uploaded it, it got copyrighted. I'm like, oh no. And then it got taken down in so many countries. Like, I know for sure Canada and a lot of places in Europe, you can't see those. So it's like, well, that was pointless just because I picked the wrong song.
Right.
And it said it was copyright free. It didn't have a lot of views on YouTube.
Ooh.
But
that's even bigger. Ooh.
Yeah, always upload your video alone with just the music first, so you know if it's copyrighted. You'll get notified right away.
Yeah. And it's because the music makes so much of the video.
It does.
Just having the right mood that can accommodate that, and editing to a beat that keeps the audience engaged.
Yeah.
Or I think does. I don't even know who I'm making these videos for half the time. I just make them because they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're just expressing your own personal art form, and then if people like it, they like it. Because I made this best of like Off Axis 2019, and I put this one song to it, and a few people were like, it's like okay. And then I literally kept the clips completely the same. And then I just switched the music, like, oh yeah, I love this now. I was like, yes, you're supposed to be watching this for the clips anyway. It's not the music.
Yeah, I mean, there was some dude teaching an editing class, and it's like, you want to be able to tell the story of your video without the music and sound effects and have it be interesting without it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah, dude.
It's the song that makes it. It's the audio. Like, audio's like half the battle.
Yep.
Maybe even more when it comes to video. If your song choice is crap, or your audio is crap, even for talking or for anything simple. If it's garbage, then no one's gonna watch the video.
Yep.
Like, straight up. So it's definitely, I think, the more important.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite videos I've ever made was the first off-axis shoe commercial, and it was all raw sound, no music or anything. Did you see that one?
I haven't.
So it was Max and Dylan. I filmed them in a circus tent, which is nice because I could control everything. Like, there was no people around. It was just us in the tent. Like, everything was solid. And, like, all you hear is the trampoline bounce and then their feet. And then, like, the wall or the shoes hitting the wall and stuff.
Okay, all natural.
Yeah, dude. As soon as I made one of those, like, damn, I want to make a bunch of these. Because, like, the music is such a headache.
It is. And there's a place for just raw ambient noise with that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's my style. But I do need to learn to do audio recording, because I have you seen where, like, in the movies they're showing themselves recording the sounds for everything separate, and like Snow is like,
yep,
they're actually like,
yeah, I've seen those before,
doing it with their hands and stuff, or like the Wolverine clip, that's the infamous, or not infamous, but the famous one that he's like running through the forest and he's doing that scene in the living room, re-recording the audio and stuff like that. Like, I need to learn to do that, because I do want to start making little short films as well. And if you don't have those minute audio details down, then it'll come across as amateur extremely quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sometimes I'll film in slow motion on my camera, and it doesn't record audio. So I'll be like,
problems.
Yeah, I know, GH5 problems. I think there's a way around that, but yeah, I'll be like, hey, can you just bounce 5 times real quick, and then I'll just use that audio for the other one, and I'll just combine them together.
Good stuff.
I don't know why a GH5 does not record audio by now. Like, what are we doing here? GH5.
That's common. So like that's pretty common if you go over 60 FPS.
Yep.
With GH5, and I don't mind it, because if you're going over that, you're probably not using it for the audio.
For sure. I mean, sometimes if you're filming like an a no music edit, it would be great though, to slow down the sound with it.
Yeah, but typically that stuff sounds pretty distorted.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
It's pretty like distorted, and in my opinion, I don't think it would make it better. You'd probably be better off trying to recreate something in post.
Yeah.
That could match what's being shown visually. But a lot of cameras do that. So a lot of cameras, when they go over 60 FPS, their audio's gone.
Does yours? You have an A7, right?
A7 III. A7 III does not. It's one of the reasons I stick with it, because there are times like when I'm doing like a little photo shoot vlog or something, and I shoot the girl in slow motion or 120 FPS to use for the video portion, and then I just want to turn around and vlog, I can do that. I don't have to change any settings.
Yep.
But on other cameras, you gotta.
Because I would love to shoot everything in 120 frames per second.
Not everything.
A lot of things I would. I always want to. Well, yeah, not everything, but like, what if I shot this podcast in 120 frames? That'd be funny. Yeah. Yeah. But like for acrobatics, I almost always would like to shoot with like a high frame rate and.
Yeah. I wouldn't go over 120 personally. For me, 120 is perfect for anything.
Unless you're shooting like a bullet or like something.
Well, yeah.
Maybe tricking or something. I don't know.
If you're shooting a bullet, you need a phantom camera.
Yeah.
Get you 10,000 FPS or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm doing anything like that, So,
yeah.
But 120 will do it for me. 180 would probably be the highest I'd be willing to go.
Yeah.
And then resolution, on the other hand, is different, because A7 III only does 1080p at 120. And it's a decent looking 1080p. I don't mind it. But if I could get 4K 120p,
that'd be crazy.
Which is it's out there in pretty cheap cameras these days.
Yeah, if you get like film only cameras, a lot of them have that, but when you're using like photo and video, like DSLR stuff, they don't have all those options.
They don't yet.
I mean, pretty soon the iPhone's gonna have it, so then they're gonna have to step up their game.
Yeah, but when it comes to like phones versus DSLRs in terms of camera specs, iPhone can do that because the sensor size is so small, so it can run a lot of those crazy video specs without much downside in terms of the heat and power consumption. If you try to do that on the same full frame sensor and get that same readout of 4K 120 like the iPhone's claiming it's going to do in the next one, you have a much harder problem to solve, because the heat coming from that and the power needed to do that is much higher on a much bigger sensor.
For sure.
Like that. So
yeah,
it's a little different.
Yeah, I didn't understand that when I first started doing videos for a living. I was working for Razer, and they're like, "Hey, can you film like the guys at the skate parks?" I'm like, "Yeah." My iPhone shoots 1080. So I didn't tell them that, though. They thought I had a camera. And for like months, I was making these awesome edits on my phone, on iMovie. They came out good.
Yeah, you can make.
They didn't notice a single thing until we had a board meeting, and they're like, "All right, yeah, everyone come check out." It was like all the higher ups at Razer. They like looked at a video that I did, and they're like, they blew it up on a big screen, and they're like,
shit.
"What is this quality?" Like, it was never a big deal until they took it off of the phone screen.
That'll do it. But I mean, nowadays you can do some really good iPhone cinematography. Even just phone cinematography in general. I believe like any phone past the later half of 2018 pretty much is all the same in terms of camera quality.
Yeah.
And you can, like, there are some guys like Parker Welbeck he's a guy I follow for a lot of instructional video stuff. And one of the parts of his course is like specifically phone cinematography, and he does some really good looking stuff with a phone, and it's a little creepy to think about right now, because it's like, first it started on the photo side where they had the portrait mode and stuff like that, and then now Samsung was messing with something that's the live focus mode, where it does the portrait mode effect, but it can do it in video. And then so now most phones like the iPhone 11 has a telephoto lens, has a wide angle lens, and then has one standard lens, at least on the iPhone 11 Max. And if that software of the live focus gets better and better with each iteration of the phone, pretty soon you remove the need for the actual lenses or actual DSLR cameras, at least on the low end, because your phone would be able to do it, and it's much easier to carry around in your pocket, and you can get a pretty similar look probably in a few years. Not a few years. It's probably like 5-10 years out, but either way, it's coming. So it's a little scary to think about where the phone, video, and photo market is. For photos, it's getting pretty good, but for video, it's still way behind.
Yeah, definitely. That's why you got to stay on that tech train. That way, when that comes and people don't even need to edit anymore, there's just a software that does everything, which there already is, but it's not all the way there yet. You got to be on the next level, making virtual reality kind of stuff.
Well, that's because like with the technology boom and Blender is something that's the 3D suite I was telling you about that's been upgraded. So they're working on. So Blender is almost its own everything program. You can, with Blender, if you had the know-how, you could do anything that the entire Adobe suite could do. Yeah. From video editing, well, maybe not photo editing and stuff like that, and in-depth audio editing, but as far as like video effects and basic video editing, and then on top of that, you got the intensive 3D side of Blender as well. That's gonna be all in one. Give it a few years.
Yep.
It might be blowing everything out of the water, and people don't even know. People don't even know.
Yeah, it's gonna get crazy pretty soon, especially once all dude, people are just gonna be making virtual worlds and stuff, and people just sit at home, put the VR headset on, and then you're in a different world, and no one's gonna want to live in this one. So I've been trying to stay away from the VR. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, but I've done some VR. It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work if it's going to be, because there's a certain aspect of VR that just watching on a 2D screen doesn't have. Yeah. And I guess there's a certain laziness to like being able to just sit back and appreciate what's in front of you on the screen, versus like you have to look around to get the full spectrum of everything that you would get in the frame of a normal TV. Yeah. Like maybe for games and stuff that works, but if you're trying to watch a movie and it's in VR and you gotta like
you're looking the wrong way or something,
you know, somebody dies over there, you know, maybe like that's cool for like an interactive horror movie or something like that.
Yeah, you could watch it like 5 times and
where it's like surround sound, you know, so it's like you're in the VR and then like something falls down the stairs and you're like, and then you know the surround sound crickles over here and you look back and there's a monster there and it freaks you out or something. Yeah. But other than that, its uses and quality has got a long way to go. Yeah. Before it catches up.
Definitely.
But maybe it has more uses in the future. Maybe.
Yeah. I think it's going to make a quick advancement. It's like the brick phone stages right now, like back in the 90s or so, and then maybe it's going to come out and it's going to be intense.
Because what more companies are going for is the AR stuff. So it's like you have VR, which is, you know, you're going into that world, and then AR is the augmented reality, where it's putting the VR elements in the real world for you. And so you can see that like through the screen, and they're still like in the early stages of that with the iPhone and stuff. And you turn on AR, and when you're looking through your phone, you see like a little dinosaur or something that's like running around on the table, and you turn away and it doesn't follow. It stays actually on that table because it's mapped out the room, and then when you come back, it's still in its same place. That has pretty awesome implications too, because like with the horror VR thing, you can do that, but now it's in your actual home. Yeah. And it can put the monsters behind walls or something like that with the augmented reality, you know. So that's where I think. And then who knows if it gets good enough to where it starts getting a high enough quality where you can't distinguish what's real.
For sure. I think people's social skills are going to take a huge dip soon.
I depend. Yeah, I mean,
People are gonna play too many video games, and then.
but I mean that kind of already happens now, right? It
It totally does.
I
It's
feel
already
like,
taken a huge dip.
yeah, like I think social media plays a big part in that.
Definitely.
And then just the ease of access of everything definitely has made us lazier, and
Yeah.
we're less connected to
Yeah.
each other. People definitely have more expressive conversations through text and on Facebook than
For
they do
sure.
in person. So it's kind of already here. I don't know how much more extreme it will get,
Yeah.
but
Well, right now, like whenever I open up my Facebook, all I see is negative stuff. It's like Facebook knows, and then they're giving me all this stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta stay off
yeah,
Facebook.
it's like don't even check it. But there is a game, VR chat, where a ton of memes come from. I love the memes that come out of the VR chat, and like the little Russian Uganda Knuckles, where he comes and yells at people in Russian and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like people interact in that game pretty good when they're anonymous and nobody knows who they really are. Then everybody's super open and super friendly and stuff like that. But as far as the real life communication that will come with VR in the future, I'm not too sure how
Dude.
that might hold up. But yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, let's wrap it up right here. We're at about an hour.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Thank you for coming on. Where can everyone find your stuff?
So right now I'm working on a YouTube channel, which is AB Film Circus, but I'm trying to learn the software to make the amazing content as I go. So the content's been a little slow to get out.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm definitely working on getting it going. So AB Film Circus, if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most of my stuff I just post on Facebook, and then any client work. Y'all don't need to know about the client work. Y'all want to see the client side.
Hit
work.
up Austin if you need some cinematic stuff. He's got really dope work done. Yeah, thanks for coming on, though.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.